I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. The hospital lights were too bright. Cold, white, unforgiving. Logan Danner blinked against the glare, his vision hazy. Head pounding like a hammer was inside his skull. Tubes ran into his arms. His ribs felt like they were cracked in half. Breathing hurt. He wasn't dead, but he was close. He tried to speak. Nothing came out. The nurse noticed. "You're awake," she said softly. "You've been out for 2 days. Galaxidon. You're lucky to be alive." Logan nodded slowly, but even that made his neck ache. He whispered, barely audible. "My wife." The nurse's face shifted. A subtle hesitation. "She hasn't visited." His heart didn't sink. It plummeted. Not even a call. 2 days unconscious, and she didn't come? Logan stared at the ceiling. Tried to make sense of it. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe the hospital hadn't contacted her. But no, she knew. She always answered emergency calls. She was his emergency contact. He reached for his phone. Weak, shaking. Opened it. No missed calls from Marla. No messages. Just a blank silence from the one person who should have been there. He tried calling her. Straight to voicemail. He left a message anyway. "Hey, it's me. I was in an accident. I am okay. Just in the hospital. Thought you'd want to know." He hung up. 1,000 thoughts crawled in. Had she been angry with him before the crash? Not that he could remember. Things have been distant lately, yeah, but not like this. Not like abandonment. The nurse returned with pain meds. He didn't want them. Not yet. Pain kept him sharp. As he stared out the hospital window, one thought kept spinning in his head. Why didn't she come? Hey, if you're still watching, that means you're enjoying the story. I have one small request. I'm trying to reach my first 1,000 subscribers. If you like stories like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to join the journey. It means a lot to me. And trust me, even better stories are coming. 2 days later, Logan sat up for the first time. The doctor called it progress. Logan called it barely tolerable. The pain was brutal, deep, like someone had driven nails into his ribs and left them there. But the real pain wasn't physical anymore. That part was fading. It was what he was in now emotionally. Confused. Hollow. Drowning in questions. He scrolled through photos of him and Marla. Smiles that didn't feel real anymore. He could barely remember the last time she'd touched him without pulling away. He looked at his call log again. Still no response. Not even a damn text. That silence? It wasn't an accident. She chose not to call. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. He opened her location history. They shared it through their phones. She hadn't been home the night of his accident. She hadn't even been in the area. She was in another part of town entirely. Near Riverside. There were no friends there. No family. No clients. He zoomed in on the map. A hotel. She'd spent the night at a hotel. He stared at the screen, cold sweat breaking across his forehead. His broken ribs ached harder than before, like his body knew his heart just took a harder hit. Why a hotel? He closed his eyes, tried to explain it away, but every logical excuse collapsed under the weight of her silence. He tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. Again. This time, he didn't leave a message. He called Vince instead, his best friend from work. Solid guy. Loyal. Vince, I need a favor. You name it. I need you to find out where my wife was the night of my accident. There was silence. Then Vince asked, calm but serious. You think she's cheating? Logan didn't answer, because deep down, he already knew. The crash was loud. Bone-snapping loud. It played in Logan's head every time he closed his eyes. The spinning, the screaming tires, the instant everything flipped from normal to chaos. It hadn't felt real then. It barely felt real now. He remembered the red truck swerving in front of him. No brake lights. No time. Just metal against metal and the sound of glass exploding. And now he was sitting in a hospital room, alive, broken, and completely alone. Vince showed up the next morning. He didn't bring flowers. Just truth. I checked what you asked. Logan sat up, bracing for what he already expected. She was at the Glenway Inn. With your cousin. The room went quiet. Logan didn't speak. Didn't move. Trent, he finally asked. Vince nodded. Checked the hotel's back lot. His car was there too. All night. A laugh escaped Logan's throat, bitter and dry. Of course it was Trent. The same smug cousin who always acted like he belonged on a magazine cover. The one Marla always said was too much and full of himself. Logan had always ignored the way Trent looked at her. The jokes, the hand on her shoulder for just a second too long. He ignored it all because he trusted her. "Sorry, man," Vince said quietly. Logan looked at him. His voice was flat. "I was almost killed, and she was screwing my cousin." Vince didn't reply. He didn't need to. Logan sat there in silence for a long time, pain rippling under his skin, heart turning to stone. "This wasn't just an accident," Logan said. Vince looked confused. "You think they had something to do with it?" "I don't know yet," Logan whispered. "But if they wanted me gone," his eyes narrowed. "They should have made sure I didn't wake up." 3 weeks out of the hospital, Logan sat at the edge of his bed and stared at the word wife on their wedding photo frame. It didn't feel real anymore. The woman smiling next to him in that picture, eyes soft, hands wrapped around his arm, was gone. Replaced by someone colder, sharper. Someone who didn't flinch when he was lying broken in a hospital bed. Someone who didn't blink at his near death. He picked up the frame, turned it over. Dust behind the glass. He hadn't looked at it in months, and now it looked like a prop from a fake life. He dialed her again. Voicemail. Again. He didn't even leave a message this time. What was left to say? The door creaked. Marla walked in like nothing was wrong, holding 2 iced coffees and talking on the phone. She didn't notice him watching. Not at first. When she did, her voice dropped a notch. Then she ended the call. "You're up," she said. No smile. No warmth. "Where were you the night I crashed?" Logan asked calmly. Marla blinked, thrown off by the directness. I was out. With friends." "Which friends?" She hesitated. "You know, work friends." Logan just stared. "That the story you're sticking with," he said. Marla frowned. "What's your problem?" "I've been working nonstop, Logan. I'm not doing this." She walked into the bathroom, closed the door. He stood there, heart heavy, jaw locked. She wasn't just lying. She didn't even care about lying. That was the worst part. His wife, the woman he thought he'd grow old with, wasn't just cheating. She'd already emotionally moved on. So what was she still doing here? The next day, Logan waited in the kitchen. He made coffee, eggs, tried to pretend things were normal. He needed to see her face when she made the choice. Marla walked in half awake, tossed her purse on the counter. He pushed a cup of coffee toward her. She blinked, surprised. "What's this?" "Just breakfast." She sipped cautiously, looked at him like he had 2 heads. "You okay?" Logan kept his tone flat. "I asked you to come to the hospital 3 times. She didn't respond. You knew I was in there. ICU. Wires everywhere. Tubes down my throat." Marla looked away. "Why didn't you come?" he asked. Silence. Then finally, cold and simple. "I didn't want to." Logan blinked, frozen. "Why?" he asked. She shrugged. "Because I knew I didn't love you anymore. And I didn't feel like pretending." His heart didn't break. It didn't shatter. It froze. Logan stood, calmly carried his plate to the sink. "I see." Marla leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "What do you want from me, Logan?" "Sympathy." "No," he said. "I want the truth." "You've had it." She walked out of the kitchen like the conversation was over. But to Logan, it had just begun. Inside, something clicked. The man who'd begged for her attention died in that hospital bed. What rose up in his place wasn't going to cry or beg again. And if she refused to care, he refused to let her walk away clean. To what end? Vince asked, pacing the garage. Logan sat in the passenger seat of Vince's old Chevy, flipping through a file folder full of surveillance screenshots and receipts. "To the end where she realizes what it feels like to be erased," Logan said. "To be betrayed." Vince sighed. "I get it, man. I do. But this path, it's heavy." Logan stared out the windshield. So I was lying in that hospital bed, wondering why the woman I loved didn't even bother to call. The air sat still. To love someone who doesn't care, Logan shook his head. It makes you feel smaller than nothing. Vince handed him a small device. "This is a mic, keep it charged. Stick it under a table or in her purse." Logan took it, thumbed the coal metal. "I'm not just collecting dirt. I'm going to dismantle everything." Vince raised an eyebrow. "And if she finds out, then I'll be exactly where she left me. Alone." Logan pulled a folded sheet from his coat. A list. Dates. Times. Names. The hotel. The receipts. "To hell with what she thinks," he muttered. "To peace," Vince said dryly, holding up a coffee cup like a toast. Logan didn't smile. He wasn't after peace. He was after clarity. He was going to make her look in the mirror, and hate would stare back. Logan sat across from the receptionist at the Glenway Inn, watching her fake a smile while typing slowly. He slid a folded 100 across the desk. She paused, then leaned in. "I'm not supposed to say anything." "You didn't," Logan said quietly. After a second, she turned the screen slightly. Room 214. Same date as his accident. 2 guests checked in. No last names, just cash reservation. Logan's jaw tightened. Back in the car, he stared at the building's faded windows. A truck passed behind him. He didn't even flinch. The betrayal wasn't just a stab in the back. It was a choice. A calculated moment when she chose to be somewhere else while he lay broken under a sheet of glass. He wasn't here for confrontation. Not yet. This visit wasn't about noise. It was about confirmation. He drove home in silence, engine humming low. In his head, he kept playing back her voice, cool, calm, detached, like he was an inconvenience. But she'd feel it soon. This was no longer about healing. It was about watching her fall slowly. Logan stared at the hospital wristband sitting on his nightstand. He hadn't thrown it away yet. Couldn't. That wristband was the only thing that told the full story. The moment where he needed her most, and she vanished like smoke. He still remembered the nurse's face when she said, "No, your wife hasn't come by." He still remembered the beep of the machines, how even the air felt colder after that. He hadn't been in a hospital since. Couldn't even drive near one. But the emotional scar? That was deeper than the physical one. Marla walked into the bedroom, towel around her neck, acting like everything was fine. "I'll be out with Gina tonight." "Late?" she said. Logan didn't look up from his phone. "Tell Trent I said hi." She froze. Not visibly, but enough that Logan caught the slight shift in her tone when she replied, "What?" "Nothing." He put the wristband in his drawer and shut it slowly. He wasn't ready to strike yet. He wanted her comfortable. He wanted her exposed. And when she fell, he wanted it to be from the highest place she thought she stood. "My life. My pain. My rules now." Logan said the words out loud as he sat in the backyard, staring up at the sky. A drone buzzed by overhead. Not his, just some kid flying it nearby. But it gave him an idea, a new angle. He opened a new folder on his laptop, My War. Inside it, he started dropping screenshots, voice recordings, timelines. A digital war chest. Each file was a piece of the empire he was building. Not to protect, but to burn it all down. His house. His marriage. His peace. Everything they'd touched together was poisoned. And now it was his turn to rewrite the story. He opened his camera app, started recording. Not for YouTube, not for sympathy, for proof. He stared straight into the lens. "Funny thing about betrayal," he said, "it never hits you in the moment. It grows. It eats. It spreads." He paused. "Some of you watching this, maybe you're where I was, lying in a hospital bed, wondering why the one person who was supposed to love you didn't even bother showing up." He leaned in slightly. "I gotta ask, where are you watching this from?" A small grin touched the corner of his mouth. "Seriously, what city are you in right now? Type it in the comments. I want to know how far this story's traveled, how far she will fall in front of all of you." He ended the video, uploaded it to an anonymous page. This wasn't content. This was war, and it had just gone public. Revenge doesn't start with screaming. It starts with silence. Logan sat at his laptop, eyes narrowed, headphones on. Marla had left an hour ago, claiming she was meeting co-workers. Her phone was still synced to the old cloud backup. She never figured out he kept the credentials. He played back the voice memo from earlier that week, her giggling voice saying, "Trent, stop. You're terrible." He'll never know. He's too weak to check. Logan didn't flinch. He clicked save, labeled it, "Laughing While I Bled." This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about making her see herself. Not through rage, through exposure, through mirrors she couldn't shatter. He created a new folder on a burner laptop. Every file had a purpose, every message time-stamped. He organized it like a case file, but this case wasn't going to court. It was going public, when he was ready. But first, small fires. He called the internet provider, changed the Wi-Fi password. When she got home, she groaned, "Logan, Did the Wi-Fi go out again? He didn't even look up. Must be a signal thing. He changed Netflix passwords. Hulu. Amazon. She tried to log in the next night, and through the remote. Why are none of the damn passwords working? Logan stood in the doorway, watching her. I must have changed them. Can't remember why. You're acting weird. He smiled. Am I? He walked off, letting her sit there, slowly starting to feel the edges of something she couldn't name yet. That wasn't the revenge. That was just the welcome mat. Logan started leaving things where she would find them. Not obvious stuff, just enough to unsettle. A receipt for a fancy dinner, a place she'd never been invited to. One she knew was romantic. Dated 2 nights ago. A woman's hair tie in the passenger seat of his car. Not flashy, just noticeable. A bottle of unfamiliar perfume in the bathroom drawer. She never said anything at first, but she noticed. He could tell. She started watching him more, asking vague questions like, "You've been out late this week, and have you seen my keys?" when she knew damn well where she left them. He didn't answer. He just smiled. He was flipping the roles now. Let her feel what doubt tastes like. She left her phone out while she showered one night. Something she never did. Logan checked it fast. Messages to Trent had slowed. Some were colder. Shorter. She was losing control of that, too. In one message, she asked, "Are you sure about this?" Logan chuckled to himself. She was starting to crack, but she had no idea the real storm was still on its way. He wrote 3 words in his journal that night. She left first. And now, he was just returning the favor. Logan pulled out a folder from the back of his closet. Inside it were old letters, cards, memories from her. Back when she meant it. One anniversary card read, "You're my forever, no matter what." He laughed. No matter what. Apparently, what included sleeping with your cousin and ghosting your husband while he was broken in a hospital bed. He burned that card. Page by page, he set fire to the things she thought he'd hold on to forever. In the backyard fire pit, under a gray evening sky, he watched the lies turn to ash. Vince called. "You good, man?" "I'm better than good," Logan said. "I'm finally seeing her clearly." He could still hear Marla's voice in his head from earlier that day. She tried to spark a fight. Passive jabs. "You've been weird lately. You're acting different." He didn't give her what she wanted. Just looked at her and said, "Don't worry about me. Focus on your next lie." She slammed the door behind her. Logan sat back in his chair, lit a cigar he didn't even like, and thought about her. Not the woman she was. The mask she wore. And how sweet it would be to be the one to tear it off in front of everyone. The first time Logan ever saw Marla cry, they'd been dating for 2 months. She dropped a coffee mug and sliced her hand open. She didn't cry from the pain. She cried because she couldn't stop apologizing for ruining the moment. That version of her was long gone. But last night, she cried in the bathroom. Logan heard her. He was sitting in the hallway, out of sight. Her sobs were muffled behind the door, but he recognized them. That strange, broken rhythm. No tears. Just the gasping that comes when pride meets panic. He didn't knock. Didn't ask what was wrong. Let her drown in it. That night, she came to bed late. Eyes red. Face washed. She curled into her side of the bed like a stranger. In the morning, she made eggs. Sat in silence. Tried to act normal. He waited until she stood by the sink before dropping a simple line. "Sleep okay?" She flinched just slightly. "Fine," she muttered. He stared at her. Calm. Measured. "You cried last night." She didn't answer. "You're not as good at hiding it as you think." Marla looked up, eyes tired. "You've changed." "No," he said. "You just stopped pretending, and now I've caught up." She left the kitchen without another word. But Logan could feel it now. She was slipping. And when people like her start crying in secret, it means their mask is cracking, and the fear underneath is real. In too deep. That's how Vince described it when Logan called from the truck. "You're crossing lines now," Vince warned. "This isn't just exposing her. You're becoming someone else." Logan looked at himself in the rearview mirror. Quiet eyes. Steady breath. "I didn't become anything," he replied. "I just stopped holding back." That afternoon, he placed a GPS tracker under Trent's car. A basic magnetized model. Nothing fancy. He already knew where they met. Now he wanted to know where else they went. That night, Marla didn't come home until 1 a.m. No explanation. Just a shrug. He didn't ask, didn't need to. In the morning, he checked the GPS log. They'd driven to a private property outside town. Cabin-style Airbnb. Secluded. He grinned. It wasn't the cheating that crushed him anymore. It was the confidence they had. Like he was nothing. Like his name meant nothing. Like his home wasn't his anymore. But now, he was in their world. Watching. Listening. The walls around them were made of glass. They just didn't know it yet. Vince asked him again, "What are you going to do when you catch them again?" Logan answered without a pause. "Make them regret ever thinking I was the fool." Marla came home to an empty living room. The couch? Gone. The TV? Removed. The bookshelf? Empty except for one photo, their wedding day. Frame cracked, placed perfectly in the center of the floor. She froze. Logan, he was in the garage, calmly unpacking boxes. She stormed in. "What the hell is going on?" "Just rearranging. You got rid of the couch. I thought it was time we made space for something new." Marla looked around, confused and angry. "Why are you being like this?" Logan stared at her, dead serious. "I'm just clearing out the junk." He walked past her, slow, deliberate. That night, she called Trent. "I think he knows." Logan heard it through the recorder hidden in her purse. Trent responded, "Then handle it, or I will." Logan smiled in the dark. This wasn't about breaking things. It was about emptying her world, one layer at a time. Not with fire, not with fists, but with silence. With the kind of cold that made people lose their minds slowly. Logan stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the house he'd once called a home. Every corner had a memory. The stain on the carpet from their first dinner party. The nail hole in the wall where their wedding photo used to hang. The spot by the window where Marla used to read on Sundays, before she stopped pretending to care. Now, it felt like a crime scene. Cleaned, scrubbed, but still soaked in betrayal. He started loading boxes into his truck. Not big ones, just enough to move what mattered. The rest, furniture, photos, even some of his clothes, he planned to leave behind. It wasn't worth taking. It didn't belong to him anymore. He canceled the utilities in his name, called a realtor, quietly listed the house under a shell LLC. Marla wouldn't even see it coming until the paperwork hit her desk. The house would sell fast. The neighborhood was in demand. He left one final thing in the attic, an old shoebox. Inside it, a copy of their wedding vows, her first love letter, and a USB. The USB was labeled, "When you finally care enough to ask why." Logan took one last look around. "You made this house empty long before I ever took anything out," he whispered. Then he locked the door and didn't look back. "Man, you still limping?" Vince asked, holding the door open at the diner. "Still bruised," Logan answered, sliding into the booth. "You're milking this." "I'm using it," Logan corrected. The injuries had been real, but they'd also given him an unexpected weapon. Sympathy. Everyone assumed he was the victim. Quiet. Still healing. No one suspected what he was building under the surface. Marla's parents called. "We're so sorry we haven't visited Logan." Marla said you didn't want company. He smiled into the phone. "That's not true. I'd love to see you both." They were confused. That night, he invited them over. Cooked dinner. Played polite. Marla came home to find her parents laughing at the table with Logan. Her face dropped. She wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. After dinner, her mother hugged Logan tight. She said, "You're shutting down. I'm so glad to see you're fighting through it." Marla stood frozen. Logan kissed her on the cheek. "Thanks for all your support, babe," he said softly. Later, she exploded. "What was that? Why are you playing this game?" He looked at her with dead calm. "Because I'm injured. Not dead." Then he walked out, leaving her in the kitchen, speechless. Inside Marla's phone, Logan found everything. Trent's messages, hotel receipts, voice memos she thought she deleted. Even a note in her planner that said, "Thursday, talk to Trent about the insurance thing." He paused. Insurance? He cross-referenced the date. It was the day before the accident. His stomach dropped, not from fear, but from confirmation. Was it possible? Did they actually talk about removing him? He dug deeper, called his agent, requested a copy of their policy. Marla had requested an increase on his life coverage 3 days before the crash. Logan stared at the paperwork in silence. The pieces were clicking together, and the picture they formed was darker than he expected. This wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just betrayal. It might have been a setup. And now that he was in possession of proof, it was time to move differently. Not just like a husband scorned, but like a man who nearly died by design. Logan needed proof, not just a betrayal of intent. If Marla had really tried to set him up, he had to be sure. No guessing, no mavis. He called Troy, an old friend from college. Auto mechanic, grease-stained hands, eyes like a detective. Bring me the wreck, Troy said. I'll tear it down. 2 days later, Logan stood in the back lot of Troy's garage, staring at what used to be his truck. The hood twisted like a crushed soda can, glass still in the seams. Troy leaned over the hood with a flashlight, muttering. This brake line, he said, tapping with a wrench. It was cut, not worn, not snapped. Cut, clean. Logan's stomach tightened, but his face stayed calm. Someone wanted those brakes gone. Whoever did it knew what they were doing, Troy added. This wasn't random. You were supposed to crash. Logan turned toward the street, cars buzzing past in the background. It wasn't just about cheating. They wanted him out. Silenced. Gone. For money. For freedom. For whatever future Marla thought she'd have without him in the way. He thanked Troy, took pictures, and left. By the time he got home, the last thread of hesitation had snapped. There was no gray left. This was war, and if it started with an accident, it was going to end with something far more deliberate. Logan stood at the kitchen island, watching Marla scroll her phone like everything was normal. Like she wasn't a stranger wearing his last name. He poured 2 glasses of wine, walked over, handed one to her. She took it cautious. What's this? To us, he said, voice warm. To pushing through the hard times. She narrowed her eyes. He held the glass up. Still my wife, aren't you? She clinked glasses with him, forced a smile. After a long sip, Logan leaned closer. I found the insurance policy, by the way. Marla froze mid-sip. You added coverage the same week I crashed. She tried to play dumb. What? No. That must have been. I also found the call log. You and Trent. The night before. Silence. Logan set the glass down. You think I'm just some weak husband who'll fall apart when the lies start piling up? Marla stood up. Logan, I don't know what you think you found. Oh, I know what I found, he said calmly. I just haven't shown anyone. Yet. She stared at him, face shifting fast. Confusion, then fear, then anger. You're threatening me? No, he said, voice cold. I'm reminding you. You're still my wife. Legally. But if you keep pushing me, I'll let the whole world see who you really are. She didn't respond. Just stormed off. Logan poured himself another drink. To the outside world, she still wore the title. But inside that house, she wasn't his wife anymore. Just a liar with a ring she didn't earn. The next morning, Logan left the divorce papers on the kitchen table. Simple envelope. No note. Just the end, right there between the bills and coupons. Marla didn't touch it. Didn't speak about it. But he saw her staring at it every time she passed by. Like it was whispering to her. Later that night, she sat on the couch, legs tucked under her. You think you're going to scare me with this? She said. Logan didn't look up. It's not about fear. Then what is it? It's about control. She laughed. A cold, bitter sound. I always knew you had this fake calm. But you? Acting like some kind of mastermind now? Please. Logan leaned forward. I gave you every chance to talk. To explain. To admit anything. You refused. So now, I'm done talking. She stood up, voice rising. You think people will believe you over me? Logan smirked. I don't care who believes it. The evidence speaks louder than either of us. He nodded toward the security camera he'd reinstalled, right there in the hallway. Marla's eyes widened slightly. You wouldn't. I already have. She went pale. But Logan wasn't bluffing. He refused to let her keep winning by pretending nothing was happening. He was going to finish where she started, but not with violence. Not with threats. With truth. And the truth was already locked and loaded. To be free, I have to burn what's left. Logan whispered the words to himself, while staring at the empty envelope Marla never opened. The divorce papers were still untouched on the counter, like she was daring him to blink first. But Logan wasn't blinking anymore. He wasn't fighting for anything now. He was fighting to take it all back. His name, his pride, and the truth that had been stomped on by 2 people who didn't think he'd survive long enough to fight back. So, that night he made a list. A short one. 1. Trent's career. 2. Marla's image. 3. My final move. He started with Trent. Logan logged in to the dummy email he created months ago, attached every document he'd collected: hotel receipts, insurance increase forms, and a short, nasty audio clip from Marla. He still thinks I'm just working late, like I could ever want him after you. Subject line: this is your golden boy? He clicked send, straight to the managing director of Trent's firm. Then he called the HR tip line anonymously. Next day, he followed up with a subtle public post from the fake account on a neighborhood forum. Just one line: check who's selling your homes. He might be sleeping in the ones he shows you. By noon, Trent's office was buzzing. By evening, Trent was on administrative leave. Pending review. Logan sat in his truck outside their building, watching it unfold. To win this kind of war, you didn't scream. You just had to know where to push and when to disappear. The next move was personal. Logan pulled into a familiar driveway, Marla's parents' place, with a small smile on his face. She had no idea he'd planned this visit. Her parents were kind people, honest, old school. They believed in marriage, loyalty, second chances, and they still thought Marla was the angel she pretended to be. Logan rang the bell. Her mom answered, eyes lighting up. Logan, what a surprise. He brought flowers, spoke politely, shared stories, asked about their health. Then he pulled out a flash drive. I need to show you something, he said. You deserve to know. Her dad, quiet and stern, sat in his recliner with arms folded as Logan connected the drive to the TV. He didn't show them the affair video first. That would have been a punch to the throat. He started with the hospital, the empty waiting room, the nurse's statement, the absence of Marla when Logan nearly died. Then he showed the receipts, the messages, the recordings. Not the graphic ones, just enough to turn the room to ice. Her mom covered her mouth. Her dad stood up. You sure about all this? Logan nodded. She told you I pushed her away. But the truth is, she left long before I ever saw it coming. There was silence. Then her mom finally asked, what are you going to do? Logan stood, grabbing his coat. I already did it. The next morning, Logan got a call from Vince. You're not going to believe this, Vince said. Marla had collapsed at work, panic attack, full body tremor. Someone called 911. She was rushed to St. Peter's Medical, the same hospital Logan had bled in just weeks earlier. The irony was so sharp, it almost made him laugh. He didn't go, didn't text, didn't call. He just sat at a diner down the road, sipping his coffee, watching the hospital through the window. Later that day, her mom called. She's asking about you, she said quietly. Logan blinked, slow. What did she say? She wants to know if you hate her. He didn't answer. He just listened to the traffic roll by. Back inside the hospital, Marla lay alone in a room that echoed. No flowers, no visitors, just the beep of a machine and the quiet hiss of oxygen. The same silence Logan had lived through. But this time, she couldn't fake being the victim. This time, no one believed the lies. This time, he wasn't the one on the floor. He closed his notebook later that night after writing a single line. Pain comes back around. You just have to be patient. Logan stood at the edge of the driveway, watching movers haul away the last of his things. They were fast, quiet, professional. Exactly what he needed. He didn't tell Marla anything. He just let the silence do the speaking. She'd come home soon to find a house that didn't belong to her anymore. Not emotionally, not legally, and after this week, not financially. Inside the truck was a duffel bag, a journal, one flash drive, a burner phone, and a clean set of documents that transferred his remaining assets into a personal trust, his name only. No more shared accounts, no more shared property, no more shared anything. Logan stood in the master bedroom one last time. The bed was stripped, the walls bare. Only the faint imprint of where their wedding photo once hung remained. This was his house once, his wife, his life, and now, none of it meant a damn thing. He walked through every room, silent. No music, no words, just echoes. At the front door, he left a single envelope taped to the mirror. Inside was a copy of the house deed transfer, and a photo of them on their wedding day, torn in half. Across the photo, in clean black ink, he wrote, "You want it out. Now you have it. My terms." Then he shut the door behind him for the last time and walked away. The USB Logan left in the envelope was loaded. Not just the affair, not just the betrayal, but everything. The life insurance increase, the messages to Trent, the GPS tracking logs, the brake line report, the voice clip. If this works, it changes everything. Logan didn't send it to the police. Not yet. He sent it to Marla's boss, then to her mentor in HR, then to Trent's company, again, and finally, to a few select community forums under different aliases. He wasn't trying to humiliate them publicly, not directly. He was trying to destroy the image they built. Quietly, strategically. By midweek, Marla was suspended from work. Trent was already on the edge of termination, and the firm was distancing itself from the drama. It didn't take long before Trent texted her, "Why is all this hitting now? What did you tell him?" She didn't respond. She didn't know what to say. She called Logan. Blocked. Called again. Blocked. She emailed. The reply was one line. "You broke it. I just showed them the pieces." Logan leaned back in his chair that night, watching the chaos unfold from a distance. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't fighting. This wasn't a meltdown. It was surgical revenge. No miss. No trail. Just cold justice delivered in pieces, slowly enough for them to feel every cut. Marla came home to an echo. The couch, gone. The closet, empty. Bank cards declined. Lights still worked, but the warmth was gone. Everything Logan left behind was intentional. The torn photo, the deed transfer, the USB, and one final note taped to the fridge. "You left first. I just followed your lead." She stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding the note like it might scream if she crushed it hard enough. She didn't cry this time. She just sat down, silent. The phone rang. Unknown number. She picked it up. "Marla," a woman's voice said, "this is Deborah from HR. I'm afraid we have to move forward with an internal investigation. The claims against you and the documents submitted are serious. Until then, consider this an indefinite leave." Marla didn't respond. She just listened, nodded, hung up. She walked to the window, the same one Logan used to sit beside, sipping his coffee, quiet but present. She used to think his silence meant weakness. Now she understood. It meant calculation. The kind of silence that stares at you while you bury yourself. She was left now, not abandoned, outplayed. And for the first time since all of this started, she finally realized he never raised his voice. He never made a scene. He just walked away and took everything with him. Her face was everywhere, not in magazines or headlines. No, not that kind of exposure, but in inboxes, in quiet whispers around office hallways, in group chats of people who once smiled at her and now watched her fall. Marla hadn't slept. The house was too quiet, the shadows too loud. Her job was gone. Pending review had turned into effective immediately. HR didn't say it outright, but they didn't have to. Once the leadership team saw those documents, her career was done. And Trent? He stopped answering 2 days ago. Blocked her. Her last text sat on delivered for hours. "We need to talk. Please." She checked his social media. His fiancée had gone private. His office scrubbed his photo, like he never existed in her world. Just like that, he left too. It was only her now. Her and the empty walls. The fridge was stocked, but she couldn't eat. Her phone charged, but no one called. She finally opened the USB, watched every clip, read every document. By the end, she wasn't angry. She was stunned. He didn't just collect evidence. He studied her, understood her, anticipated every lie before she even told it. She once told herself Logan was too passive, too soft, predictable. But what he'd done wasn't predictable. It was surgical. She realized then, she didn't just lose a marriage. She lost to him. And the version of him she remembered, he didn't exist anymore. It started quietly. A sniffle, the kind you try to hide when no one's around. Then her hand shook as she scrolled through her phone, searching for someone, anyone to call. She tried Gina, straight to voicemail. Her mother? Cold, blunt. "We're disappointed, Marla. Logan showed us everything." Her father didn't even get on the line. So she sat down, in the same kitchen where Logan once cooked Sunday breakfast. Same chair, same creaky leg. She cried like she hadn't in years. Not because of guilt, that part had burned off already. Not because she missed Logan. She didn't even know who he was anymore. She cried because she'd been erased. Completely. No career. No support. No talent. No future plans. Everything she thought she controlled had slipped through her fingers. And worst of all, she knew he wasn't coming back. She checked her text again. Still blocked. She whispered into the silence. Please just talk to me. No one answered. So she cried harder. She didn't see the note Logan had slid into the back of a USB case until hours later. Folded. Small. One line written in sharp black ink. Crying won't fix what loyalty could have saved. She gripped it in shaking hands. That's when it hit her. He wanted her to feel this. And she finally did. In this version of my life, I don't save anyone but myself. Logan closed his journal after writing the line. He sat alone in a quiet studio apartment 3 towns over. Clean. Minimal. No clutter. No memories. Just freedom. A place no one knew about. Not even Vince. He'd moved quietly. Burners. Rerouted mail. Private delivery services. The whole exit strategy had been laid out for weeks. Even before the confrontation. He'd always planned to leave. The only question was how much of her world he'd take with him. Turns out, it was everything. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. Buzzed again. Voicemail. He listened. Her voice. Cracked. Tired. Logan, I don't even know what to say anymore. You won. Okay. You got what you wanted. I'm not okay. And I don't know who I am without all of this. Pause. Then softer. If you ever want to talk, just once. Idili scan. He deleted it. No pause. Logan stood up, walked to the window. The city moved below. Lights. Horns. Strangers. It felt good not to be recognized. Not to be owned by a past that nearly killed him. He opened his laptop and started typing. Title, Ian, The Art of Leaving Without Looking Back. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply not being there when they finally want you. Trent sat in his car for 15 minutes before even turning the key. The HR director's email still glowed on his phone screen. Due to the nature of the allegations and accompanying evidence, your license and all pending listings are suspended, effective immediately. He had read the line 10 times. It still didn't feel real. 1 week ago, he was closing deals, flashing smiles, handing over keys like a local celebrity. Now, he couldn't even step inside the office without security escorting him out. Marla hadn't called him. He hadn't called her either. They both knew the damage was beyond repair. He thought about confronting Logan, slamming on his door, demanding answers, blowing the whole thing open. But Logan was gone. No address. No number. No trace. Trent had even driven past Logan's old house. The blinds were shut. For sale sign pulled. It was like he'd vanished and left behind a ghost that somehow burned everything down without saying a single word. He opened his glove box, pulled out a bottle of bourbon, twisted the cap, stopped, put it back. Something about Logan's silence unnerved him more than yelling ever could. He stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. Face pale, lips cracked, eyes tired. For the first time in years, he didn't recognize himself. He wasn't the smooth-talking closer anymore. He was empty, not just unemployed, exposed. He started the engine, turned the car around, and drove to a motel on the edge of town. No name reservation, just a card swipe, and silence. Marla finally accepted it. The house wasn't hers anymore. The papers had been filed, the mortgage transferred, all utilities rerouted. Every shred of legal connection between her and the property was cut clean. She sat on the floor in the living room, not because there was nowhere else to sit, but because sitting on the floor made her feel less fake, less like someone pretending it wasn't all over. The sun poured in through the blinds, highlighted dust in the air. The place smelled untouched, like time stopped the second Logan walked out the door. She checked the fridge. Empty. Checked her wallet. 2 cards. Both declined the day before. She called the bank again, hoping they made a mistake. The rep confirmed it wasn't a mistake. She'd been removed from all joint accounts 2 weeks ago, with notarized paperwork. Ma'am, it's all been legally processed, the woman said politely. Is there anything else I can help you with? Marla hung up. She walked upstairs, into what used to be their bedroom. The one where she'd whispered lies while planning hotel stays with a man who vanished the moment the walls cracked. She slid open the closet. Just one hanger left. One. On it, a piece of paper clipped to the hook. In Logan's handwriting, "The house didn't break us. You did." She sank onto the floor, back against the wall. The tears didn't come this time. There was nothing left in her to cry with. Logan hadn't taken a house. He took the version of her that thought she could never be touched. And now, this wasn't a home. It was a museum of everything she lost. It started with a story. Anonymous. Posted to a private subreddit. "I survived a car crash. My wife never visited me in the hospital. Here's what happened next." It wasn't written for attention. Not fame. Not pity. It was a mirror held up for anyone who'd been betrayed in silence. It went viral overnight. The comments poured in. "Damn, this hit me harder than I expected." The part where she increased the insurance made me sick. Who TF does that to someone in the hospital? Marla's coworkers saw it. Her old classmates texted about it in group chats. Even her ex-boss, who'd already let her go quietly, forwarded it to the board with one line. "Sounds familiar, doesn't it?" She couldn't prove it was Logan. Not publicly. But the details, they were undeniable. The story didn't use names. No photos. But it was surgical in how closely it matched her timeline. She started getting DMs. Some angry. Some curious. Some fake supportive, but laced with pity. "Are you okay? Was this you? Tell your side." But what was her side? The truth? That she abandoned a man who trusted her? That she tried to emotionally erase someone who would have given her everything? There was no her side left. Only a legacy she didn't write, and one she couldn't outrun. She wasn't just jobless. She was exposed. And somehow, Logan never once used her name. He didn't have to. The facts were enough. He stayed injured. She became infected. In this space, no one knows me. And that's the point. Logan walked the aisles of a quiet bookstore, sipping coffee, hoodie up. No one glanced at him twice. He could have been anyone. A man shopping for a gift. A guy on his lunch break. Just a face in the crowd. Exactly how he liked it. No one here whispered his name. No one pitted him or knew what he'd survived. He wasn't Logan Danner, the husband who got cheated on. He was just Logan, a man who didn't break. A man who rewrote his own ending. He bought a new journal. Clean pages. Unwritten. Nothing taped to the inside cover. No names. No timelines. Just possibility. The cashier smiled as she handed him the bag. "Have a good day." He smiled back. "You too." He walked outside into the crisp wind and took a deep breath. He hadn't checked Marla's page in days. Didn't need to. The last time he did, it was chaos. Vague posts, sad quotes, a public comment from her sister that simply read, "Actions have consequences, even if you don't like them." He never responded. He wouldn't. This wasn't about holding on anymore. It was about letting go in a way she couldn't. In her world, silence meant weakness. In his, it meant freedom. He crossed the street, journal tucked under his arm, and looked up at the city around him. Fresh air, new streets, no echoes. He smiled to himself and whispered, "She's still trying to fix the story. I've already written the ending." Marla sat across from a podcast host in a tiny studio, dimly lit, surrounded by hanging mics and fake plants. The host smiled politely. "You sure you're ready to talk about it?" She nodded. This was her idea. Her one shot at telling her truth before the world etched her into digital stone as the villain in someone else's story. "It all started with an accident," she said, adjusting her mic. "My husband was in a crash. Bad one. And I wasn't there." That was the first moment she almost broke. The host leaned in. "Why weren't you?" Marla stared at the floor. "Because I wasn't who I should have been. Not then. Not for him." She tried to thread it right. Remorseful, but not pitiful. She didn't want to come off as just another woman who got caught. She wanted to sound human. Flawed. Hurt. Learning. But she wasn't a good actress. Not anymore. As she spoke, the host glanced down at a phone screen. Likely notes or questions. Then paused. "Have you spoken to your ex since?" Marla hesitated. "He won't talk to me. Have you apologized?" I tried." A long pause. Then the host asked what Marla feared most. "Do you think you'd be here, telling your story, if he hadn't survived that crash?" Silence. Tight. Still. Marla blinked, and for a second, the camera caught it. That flicker of truth. A fear. A what if? She didn't answer, because everyone watching already knew. She wouldn't be sitting there if he had died. She'd be posting condolences, wearing black, living off life insurance. The truth wasn't just an accident. It was a mirror, and for the first time in public, Marla looked straight into it. Hey, babe, I'm running late. Be home soon. The voicemail played through Logan's burner phone, quiet in his palm. Old, pre-recorded. Marla's voice, sweet and fake, the kind she used before everything cracked. He didn't smile, didn't flinch. He just listened, then hit delete, because that version of her, the one who called herself his wife, didn't exist anymore. She never really had. He scrolled through the last few messages she sent recently. Some long, some short. One just said, please, all unread. He wasn't ignoring her to be cruel. He was doing it because responding would open a door that needed to stay locked. She had burned everything down, then cried when the fire reached her feet. And now, she wanted water from a man she left bleeding on concrete. No, that part of his life, the chapter where he fought to matter to someone who didn't, was closed, locked, buried. He tossed the burner phone in the trash, grabbed his keys, walked out of the apartment. The air hit different these days. Cleaner, like breathing after a long dive underwater. His feet didn't drag anymore. His mind didn't race. The revenge wasn't just for satisfaction. It was for clarity. He could have exposed her to the world in flames. Instead, he just let her rot in silence. Because sometimes, the best revenge wasn't burning your ex's life to the ground. It was walking away so calmly. They spend the rest of theirs wondering why they never saw it coming. 3 weeks had passed since Marla's voice hit the internet. The podcast got a few thousand views, a handful of sympathetic comments, but most of them, brutal. She's not sorry. She's just sorry she got caught. Imagine abandoning someone in a hospital and still thinking you deserve closure. Nah, she's just playing cleanup after the fire. Marla stopped reading after day 2. She thought she could twist the narrative, spin the pity, maybe even hint that Logan wasn't as perfect as everyone assumed. But the truth had no room left for spin. She paced her empty house like it was a prison. Same rooms, same walls, no wardrooms, just the echo of choices she couldn't rewind. And Logan? Silent, still gone. So she tried something bold. She showed up at Vince's shop. He looked up from under a car hood and wiped his hand slowly. You're kidding, he muttered when he saw her. I just want to talk, she said, stepping inside. He stared. You think I'm stupid? No, I think you're the only one who will still hear me out. She handed him an envelope. Inside was a photo, a printed one, old school. It was her and Logan years ago, laughing, real, before everything. Vince looked at it, unimpressed. What's this supposed to do? It's proof that I wasn't always a monster. Vince tossed it on the counter. You refused to show up for him when he was broken. You refused to tell the truth until your job disappeared. You refused to apologize when it mattered. He stepped closer. Now you want sympathy? You're knocking on the wrong door. She didn't speak. He pointed toward the street. Go. And if you see Logan, tell him I said thanks for refusing to let you drag him down again. She turned and walked out, burning inside. Because for the first time ever, her charm didn't work. Her tears didn't matter. And even loyalty had refused her. To forgive is divine, the quote read on the coffee shop wall. Logan stared at it, then shook his head slightly. Not this time, he muttered under his breath. He was meeting someone new today. Not a date, not a love interest, just a woman he met at a local writing group. Smart, sharp, and knew when not to ask too many questions. They talked about books, stories, human behavior. It wasn't romantic. It was normal, something he hadn't felt in a long time. As they parted ways after the meeting, she smiled. You're quiet, she said, but not in a weak way. More like someone who's seen everything and chose peace anyway. He gave her a polite nod and walked off. That line stuck with him, because it was true. He didn't choose peace out of weakness. He chose it because revenge had already been served, ice cold and perfectly plated. He walked past a bench and spotted a newspaper left behind. Front page. Local realtor officially stripped of license amid ethics probe. Trent's face, smiling wide, ironically, under a headline that sealed his fall. Logan folded it in half and kept walking. At home, he opened his laptop and typed a final entry in his private log. To the ones who left me bleeding, I didn't need to scream. I just needed time. He closed the file, encrypted it, uploaded it to a drive no one would ever find. That part of his life? Done. He didn't need closure from Marla. Didn't need an apology from Trent. Didn't even need the world to clap for his patience. All he needed was the quiet certainty that he walked through fire and left them both standing in the smoke. Marla stood on Logan's mother's front porch, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. She hadn't been here in years. Not since the engagement party, when she wore white early and gave a toast about forever. Now she was wearing black. Not for mourning. For desperation. She rang the bell. His mother opened the door slowly. The lines on her face deeper now, but her eyes? Still sharp. Marla. I know this is weird. Can I come in? A pause. Then, you've got 5 minutes. Inside, the air smelled like cinnamon and wood polish. Exactly like it always had. Except now it felt colder. They sat. Marla tried to make eye contact. I don't know where Logan is. I don't even know if he's okay. I needed to ask. Have you seen him? His mother's face stayed still. No, a beat. Do you know where he went? I wouldn't tell you if I did. Marla blinked. Why? His mother leaned forward slightly. Her voice calm. Because you're not the kind of woman you pretended to be. And my son doesn't owe you a single thing. Not his peace, not his time, and definitely not his presence. I just want to apologize. You want to feel better. Marla sat back, silent. His mother stood, walked to the door. Logan's gone, Marla. He left the wreckage. You're still standing in it. Marla stood slowly. He ever say anything about me? Anything at all? His mother looked at her one last time. Yes. What? She opened the door. He said, she'll visit the past when no one's left in her future. And then the door clicked shut. Marla collapsed at 2:43 p.m. No warning, no pain, just a full-body drop in the middle of a grocery store aisle between cereal and almond milk. A customer called 911. She was conscious when the ambulance arrived, but she didn't speak. Just laid there, breathing, eyes blinking like her mind had detached from her body. They checked her vitals. No heart issue, no stroke, just stress, emotional overload, mental fatigue, a quiet diagnosis for a loud breakdown. In the hospital bed, the same hospital where Logan once lay bruised and abandoned, she stared at the ceiling tiles and let the silence spread through her bones. There were no flowers on her nightstand, no visitors, not even a nurse who asked for family to call. She had no one listed under emergency contact. Logan's name was gone. She tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. So she pulled her phone from the bedside tray, opened her notes app, typed one word, sorry, then deleted it. Typed another, if I could take it back, deleted that too. There were no words left to fix what she'd shattered. Only the sound of machines keeping rhythm in a room too cold for tears. The nurse checked in once. You need anything? No, Marle whispered. She didn't want water, didn't want meds, didn't want another voice telling her this would pass. Because deep down, she knew this wasn't just a panic attack. This was Karma's whisper, a reminder that the man she left in a hospital bed months ago got up, walked out, and never looked back. And now, she was the one who couldn't move. Logan stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the shoreline, wind biting at his jacket, salt in the air. No one was around, just the waves and the crash and the slow, rhythmic peace of knowing that for the first time in years, everything in his life belonged to him again. Not shared, not questioned, not compromised. Mine, he thought. My name, my choices, my freedom. He had no interest in rebuilding what was lost. He wasn't looking for love or redemption or some cinematic ending with closure and forgiveness. Closure had already happened the day he stopped needing her apology. That was the true freedom. He pulled out the last journal he'd been writing in. The pages were full. Observations, strategy, pain, quiet victories, scars. He turned to the final page. This was never about getting even. It was about walking out of the fire untouched. She played with something she didn't understand, and I just walked away. He closed the book, tied a black cord around it, walked over to a tree tucked off the trail, and placed the journal in a small weatherproof lockbox he buried beneath a stone. No one would find it, and no one needed to. This was for him. Only him. A lifetime ago, he would have fought to be heard. Now, he didn't need to be understood. Just done. As he turned and walked back toward the road, the sky opening up ahead of him, Logan whispered one final line under his breath. My story doesn't end with her. It ends with me, choosing something else. And he meant it. Revenge didn't look like fire. It didn't sound like yelling. It didn't come with fists or slammed doors or broken furniture. It looked like this. Marla sitting in her empty living room, clutching a phone with no one on the other end. Trent living out of a friend's guest room, with no license, no future, and no answers. Their names no longer whispered at parties or praised in boardrooms. Just avoided. Just forgotten. And Logan? Logan didn't post about it. Didn't gloat. Didn't even tell the world what he'd done. Because real revenge? It doesn't need an audience. It's in the silence. In the empty inbox of the person who betrayed you, wondering why you haven't reached out. In the DMs left unread. In the voicemails deleted without being played. In the fact that they keep checking your page, and you're not checking theirs. Marla texted him again that morning. Marla, I know I don't deserve your time, but I just want you to know I regret everything. Please don't forget the version of us that was real. He stared at the message. Didn't feel rage. Didn't feel sorrow. Just nothing. He put the phone down, turned it off, walked into his kitchen, made coffee, sat by the window. Outside, people walked their dogs, jogged, laughed. The world moved. Life moved. He smiled softly, because the best kind of revenge wasn't making them feel what you felt. It was being so far gone. They couldn't reach you even if they tried. The front door slammed behind her, but no one noticed. Marla dropped her keys onto the counter and leaned against the fridge like it could hold her up. The silence in the house didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like judgment. Not loud, not violent, just heavy, like it knew what she did, like it had always known. She walked through the kitchen slowly. The floor creaked beneath her steps. Same tile Logan laid years ago. He was proud of it. Hands dirty, sleeves rolled, smile wide. She didn't appreciate it then. She couldn't now. The power bill was overdue. Groceries were low. The only mail she got anymore were final notices or unsubscribed junk. She sat down at the table and opened her laptop. Searched Logan's name again. Nothing new. No updates. No tags. No locations. He had left. Not just the house. Not just her. The city. The digital trail. The entire orbit she existed in. It was like he'd erased himself from her reality, or worse. Like she'd been erased from his. She typed a message. One last time. Marla, you're probably never going to read this. But I wish I could undo it. All of it. Not for you to forgive me. Just so I didn't have to wake up every day knowing I'm the reason you had to become someone else. She stared at the blinking cursor. Then hit send. Then immediately deleted the entire thread, like it would make the truth less real. She laid her head down on the table, cheek to the cold wood, and whispered into the quiet, he's really gone. And this time, she didn't mean physically. She meant completely. She used to think she was unforgettable, that no matter what happened, people would remember her, her presence, her voice, her beauty, her charm, especially Logan. But now, she wasn't her anymore. She was just another woman who made the mistake of believing loyalty was optional. She walked through town that day, familiar streets, familiar faces, and saw none of them looking her way. No smiles, no nuts, just silence. She sat in the cafe Logan used to love. Same table by the window. Ordered the same coffee he always did. Black, 2 sugars, no cream. She stirred it slowly. The woman at the counter asked, will anyone be joining you? Marla just shook her head. No, not anymore. She pulled out her phone, scrolled her gallery. Every photo of them was gone. Not because she deleted them, but because Logan wiped everything when he left. No shared albums. No tagged photos. No traces. She opened Instagram. Searched his name. Nothing. She typed it again. Still nothing. He didn't just leave. He disappeared from her story. She wasn't the villain in his new chapter. She simply wasn't in it at all. Outside, the sun hit the sidewalk. A couple passed, laughing. The kind of laughter she used to fake in hotel rooms with Trent while Logan worked late, thinking she was tired, not tired of him. Now, that same laugh pierced her. She stood, dropped cash on the table, walked out. Every step echoed one truth. She had it all. She played the game, and she lost. Not because he fought back, but because he never had to. And now, all she had left was her. And she couldn't even recognize who that was anymore. The house was silent again. But this time, the silence didn't feel cold. It felt empty. Marla sat on the floor of the living room, legs crossed, staring at nothing. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice was gone. Her hands trembled even when she wasn't moving. She had cried herself quiet. There were no more calls to make. No more stories to spin. No more plans to fix anything. Everything was gone. The husband, the affair, the reputation, the money, the identity she once polished like glass. She'd lost it all without a single explosion. No screaming match. No courtroom drama. No angry scene at the door. Logan never raised his voice. He just took the truth and walked it out the front door. And now, she cried not because she missed him, but because she never even got the chance to say goodbye to the version of him that still loved her. The one who would have taken her back if she had just told the truth. Too late. The camera slowly pulls back from the house. One woman, one ruined life, one final echo of a man who never came back. And that was the revenge. He left her alone to deal with everything she once thought he couldn't survive. Now, if you watch this story all the way to the end, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? What city are you in? Drop it in the comments. We're reading every single one. And more importantly, was it worth it? Did Logan do the right thing? Should Marla have paid more? Would you have done what Logan did? Hit that like button if you felt something. Anger, chills, justice. Smash that subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss another story like this one. And most of all, we want your truth. How did this story hit you personally? Tell us in the comments. No filters, no fake talk. Because sometimes the quietest stories are the ones that hit the loudest. We'll see you in the next one. End.